Alright, what's up, guys? I moved away at the age... Alright, guys. So, I moved away at the age of 19 to New Zealand to pursue my dream of pursuing rugby, and honestly, it's probably the best thing I've ever done for my self-development as a growing man. Now, the reason for this is, first of all, being in your hometown, you're going to be comfortable. You're likely going to have a lot more support than if you're living abroad. And that's one thing that I noticed when I came here. Now, originally, I actually planned to, I was going to come here and I was going to have no one. And for me, I actually thought that would be a good thing. I'd have no one. I didn't need to rely on anyone. I didn't need to focus on anyone. I was going to stay completely, lone wolf, all of that. I thought that would be the best way to contribute towards my success, to achieve what I wanted. But since being here, I've realized that's not all the case. Having that support around you is essential if you want to make it, is what I would say. Of course, there are exceptions, but doing something on your own is far more difficult than having a strong support group around you. And that's one thing I noticed here. And I actually quit rugby. So I came to New Zealand. I moved from Canada, a tier 2 country for rugby, into debatably the best country in the world and debatably the best city to play rugby. And I ended up quitting it simply because back home I had an amazing support group. I had amazing people surrounding me in that rugby space. But once I came here, I didn't have that, and I didn't have that connection that made me thrive in that environment. And I was fine with that. But once I had that support for boxing, which is what I ended up leaving to go into, I've now flourished in a way that I don't think I could have had I been on my own. Imagine trying to be the world's best football/soccer player in the world and you don't have a coach. Of course, there's hypothetically a chance it could be done. The likelihood, however, is infinitesimally smaller. I can't even say the word right now. It's a lot smaller than had you had a coach, had you had a striking coach, had you had, a defense coach. I don't know all the different coaches. I don't follow that sport. However, with boxing, I have 2 amazing coaches. I have some amazing coaches back home as well. And I've been able to learn from all of them. My coaches here have had so much backing and support for me that it blows me away. And I am so eternally grateful that to have received such support, and not just from my coaches, but the people at my gym, the people, so many people. And it motivates me to work harder. Of course, I was still working really hard on my own, fueled by my own desires, fueled by my own ambitions. But now that I have people who are backing me, I know they're giving me their support. They're giving me their trust and their faith. I can't let that go to waste. I can't show up and not try my hardest. I can't enter in a fight knowing that I have people who care about me watching, and they could see me getting hurt. So I need to train so that they don't see me get hurt, so my younger siblings don't see their older brother get beat up, so that my parents, my mom doesn't see her little boy get beat up. And it honestly motivates me to get to a higher level. This is with sport specific. Now, of course, there are other avenues that it's greatly developed me in, and I would say that's just a level of independence, which you don't have. As I mentioned, you have a level of comfort being in your own social circle, being around the people you've grown up with, your family. You always have that backup. And in a sense, I do still have that backup. I have, especially with the people here, but realistically, I knew if worse comes to worse, if I really had to, I know my parents could help me get out of something, if something terrible happened. But aside from that, I'm responsible for my own decisions. I'm responsible for, I could do anything here. No one's going to stop me. I have nothing holding me accountable to any one mode of life, or morals or anything. Like realistically, I could do anything. And I'm in a foreign country. No one really knows me, you know. But that leaves it all to my decision. So I need to be the grown adult. I need to make my decisions. I need to provide for myself. I need to find work. I've started a business, a strength conditioning coach, as I assume everyone watching this would know. And I need to provide myself for that, which can be tough. And obviously, when someone else is providing for you, you don't need to go through those struggles. But once it's on you, and once you go into some places where maybe you do struggle a bit financially or this or that, and these are just things that develop you as a person, I would say. And that's not something I ever experienced before. Even honestly, even not putting myself out there as much in Canada, I had a good job, I had a business over there, and they were quite successful. I could have lived on my own, done my own stuff with that, and I would have been perfectly content, to be honest. I was getting good money, but instead I came over here, worked a job, and had to get clients with people who don't even know my name, so I have no repertoire, I don't have a reputation. And it's definitely a lot more difficult. I've definitely had to push a lot more mentally to be able to sustain my way of living and find enough time to balance my working life, my sporting life, and then still keeping in touch with the people back home, which is something that I really struggle with, because I'm very much of a, I'll talk to you when I see you type of person. Anyone who's close to me probably knows I typically suck at texting. There's a few people who I'm quite good at answering, but most people, I'll see your text and I'll be like, on to that in a bit. But unless if I have a reason to text that person regardless, and then I go back and I'm like, I didn't answer you, then may not answer for a little bit. So I actually have daily alarms to answer my clients, because otherwise I won't, because I'll forget. So anyways, it's also why I try and get a weekly form for my clients to all do, and then I'm still talking to them weekly, sending them some videos and stuff. A lot of people are not very good at filling out that weekly form, unfortunately. I would say the wide majority. So I really need to crack down on that, because otherwise, we're not going to get results. It's annoying sometimes. It's annoying. I'm trying to help you. Hey, fill out the form. You'll have to do it once a week. It takes 3 minutes. Come on. Anyways. Yeah, honestly, beautiful country. I'm at Lake Bruner right now, just exploring a bit. I haven't explored the country as much as I would have liked since being here, but the experience has been invaluable to me as a person, and I'm so grateful. I've met so many amazing people. I've made so many amazing connections that when I leave, it's tough. It's going to be so tough. And yeah, I don't really know what life holds for me. I don't know how long I'll be in this country. I don't know how long. The plan is I'll be here another 6 months. I don't know if I'll come back. I'll definitely come back to visit, because I've met so many amazing people here. I don't want to, never see them again. And yeah, but I'm definitely going to keep up with everything that goes on here. But I love this country. I've loved everything it's done for me. I love the people I've met. And yeah, so main things, independence, just finding and building that support group on your own accord, instead of, because it's really easy growing up somewhere, if you go to school together for a few years, it's really easy to make friends that way. But having to find people as an adult, I feel, is definitely a bit more different. I wouldn't say it's harder, because I think as an adult I've made a lot more friends than when I was a teenager, for example. I was very quiet as a teenager, quite a recluse. I remember spending grade 8, so first year of high school, I spent all my lunches sitting at a bench alone in the corner or in the bathroom. That was sad. But anyways, luckily I have so many amazing people in my life now that that's not the case. So yeah, what else is there too? I think that's the gist of it. The independence and just new experiences. I've seen a lot more ways of life and ways of living here that I wouldn't had I stuck in the same circle. And the difference between New Zealand and Canada, you know, we're both in the Commonwealth. It's not worlds apart. It's not as if I went from Canada to Vietnam or to Pakistan or Istanbul, you know, but it's certainly different. There's certainly a lot of similarities and synchronicities, but there's also it's as if I was in a parallel universe, you know. On a broad scale, it's pretty similar. But when you look a bit more in depth, there's a lot of things that are different, you know. Just there's a lot more cultural diversity here, I would say. In terms, I wouldn't say there's as many Africans or you know, obviously not many Native Americans, but in terms of Oriental people, there's a lot more Japanese, there's a lot more Korean, a lot more Chinese. I'd say there's a lot more, I've met a lot more South Americans, specifically Brazilians. I've met a lot of Brazilians, and there's all the different islanders. All the islanders come here, so that's awesome. What else? Yeah, and then there's just I'm gonna butcher this, but Maori people, and you know, there's so much cultural diversity, which I absolutely love. You know, the more types of people I find, the better, because, you know, from different places, get to learn their mode of life, get to learn about their country, and I just find it amazing. And also just Kiwis in general, you know, I love Kiwis. They're awesome. I love the accent. I can barely understand it half the time. Yeah, I ask people to repeat themselves many times a week, but I still love it. I like the sound of it. It sounds cool, even though they can't enunciate their words properly, but it's still fun. Yeah, so overall, best experience I've ever made as a growing teen into an adult. I'm now 20, turning 21 in just 7 weeks, so that's pretty crazy. Yeah, anyways, that's my story. That's my life in New Zealand. It's how it's benefited me. If anyone made it this far, comment down below, because I am curious to see how many people will watch this far. But yeah, that's a complete authentic review of my move over here. There's 100% a ton more that just aren't off the top of my head. That was me kind of just spitballing it, because I knew this is something I wanted to make a video on. So I'll probably make a more concise version down the line that I can post on Instagram and stuff. But this is just complete authentic spitball. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a lovely day, whether you're in winter, which this is bad winter weather, or you're enjoying the summer in Canada or somewhere else. But yeah, that's my main audience. Anyways, hope you guys have an awesome day. Thank you very much for watching this whole time.